Cursed by the Clocktower in the small, fog-covered town of Eldermere, the Clocktower stood as its oldest and most ominous landmark. Built in the late 1800s, it loomed over the town square, its towering spire piercing the sky like a warning. Locals whispered that the Clocktower was cursed, a vessel of darkness that had claimed many lives over the decades. They said the curse began on a stormy night over a century ago, when the clockmaker, Gideon Thorne, vanished without a trace. He had been working on the clock's intricate gears when the townsfolk heard a single, blood-curdling scream echo from the tower. By the time they arrived, there was no sign of Gideon, only the clock ticking steadily, as though it had absorbed him into its mechanical heart. The dare for years, the Clocktower was avoided, its doors locked tight. But curiosity has a way of tempting the foolish. When Ava, Marcus, and Theo, three adventurous teenagers, heard about the curse, they decided to investigate. They were thrill-seekers with a YouTube channel dedicated to exploring haunted places, and the Clocktower was too perfect to resist. "We'll go up there, record some footage, and prove it's just an old tower," Marcus said confidently, packing his flashlight and camera. "Or we'll find out the truth," Ava replied, her voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. Theo, the skeptic of the group, rolled his eyes. "It's just a stupid urban legend. Let's get this over with." Entering the tower the night they chose was cold and eerily quiet, the town wrapped in a heavy mist. The door to the Clocktower groaned as they pushed it open, revealing a spiral staircase winding into the shadows above. The air inside was damp and smelled of rust and decay. Their flashlights flickered as they ascended, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the stone walls. Halfway up, they noticed strange symbols etched into the walls, marks that looked like they were carved in desperation. "What do you think these mean?" Ava whispered, running her fingers over the jagged lines. "Probably just graffiti," Theo muttered, though he couldn't shake the unease creeping over him. As they climbed higher, the air grew colder, and the ticking of the clock grew louder, reverberating in their chests. The heart of the tower. When they reached the top, they found themselves in the clockroom. It was a maze of gears and pendulums, all moving in perfect synchrony. The room seemed alive, its mechanical heartbeat pulsing with an unnatural energy. On the far wall, they saw a large mirror, its surface cracked and smeared with something dark. "Why would there be a mirror in a clocktower?" Ava asked, stepping closer. Before anyone could answer, the mirror fogged over, as if someone had breathed on it from the other side. Slowly, letters began to appear, written in reverse: "Leave," or "Stay forever." The curse awakened suddenly. The clock struck midnight. The booming chimes echoed through the tower, and the room seemed to shift. The gears groaned and screeched, and the mirror shattered, sending shards flying across the room. Ava screamed as a shadowy figure emerged from the shards, a man with hollow eyes and mechanical parts fused into his body. "Gideon," Theo whispered, his voice trembling. The figure stepped forward, his movements jerky and unnatural, like a puppet controlled by invisible strings. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped, his voice echoing like grinding gears. "The clock must be fed." The escape. The gears began to spin faster, their grinding noise deafening. The floor trembled, and the walls seemed to close in around them. "We need to get out," Marcus shouted, grabbing Ava's arm. But the shadow of Gideon moved to block their path. "The clock demands a soul," he hissed, reaching for them with claw-like hands. In the chaos, Theo grabbed a piece of broken mirror and hurled it at the gears. The machinery screeched and sparked, and for a moment, Gideon faltered. "Run!" Theo yelled. The three of them sprinted down the staircase, the sound of grinding gears and Gideon's screams chasing them all the way to the bottom. They burst out into the cold night air, slamming the door behind them. The aftermath. The next day, they tried to tell the townsfolk what had happened, but no one believed them. When they returned to the Clocktower, it was as if nothing had changed. The door was locked, the gears silent. But they knew the truth. Late at night, Ava could still hear the ticking of the clock in her dreams, growing louder and louder until she woke in a cold sweat. And every so often, she would see the faint outline of a figure in her reflection, hollow-eyed and watching. The curse of the Clocktower wasn't over. It had only just begun.